Captain Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her forehead as she crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel of the alien space station. The air was thick and hot, filled with the smell of oil and burnt circuits. Her hands were black with grease and her back ached from hours of fixing broken pipes and damaged wiring. Another day in paradise, she muttered to herself. Behind her, Marcus Rodriguez followed with his toolbox. The big man had to squeeze through spaces that were clearly not made for humans. His dark face was covered in sweat, and his military tattoos showed through his torn work shirt. "Captain, this whole section is falling apart," Marcus said. "These aliens build everything cheap and expect us to keep it running." Sarah nodded. She had been working on council stations for 15 years now. Ever since humanity joined the Galactic Council, humans had been given only the worst jobs. They cleaned toilets, fixed broken machines, and worked in dangerous mines. The alien species treated them like slaves. Even though they called humans junior partners, the Council had made the rules clear 50 years ago when the first alien ships appeared over Earth. Humans were a Category 7 primitive species. They were too violent and stupid to be trusted with important work. Only the advanced alien races could hold positions of power. Sarah remembered her grandfather's stories about the early days. He had been so excited when the aliens came. He thought humanity would explore the stars and learn amazing things. Instead, humans became the Council's janitors and miners. "Chen, get up here now." The voice came through Sarah's radio. It belonged to Vexthak, the snake-like alien who ran this section of the station. His voice always sounded angry, like humans were insects that annoyed him. Sarah and Marcus climbed out of the tunnel and walked to Vexthak's office. The alien was 12 feet tall with purple scales and 4 arms. His yellow eyes looked at them with disgust. "The waste processing system is broken again," Vexthak hissed. "You humans can't do anything right. Fix it in 2 hours or I'll dock your pay." Sarah wanted to tell him that the system kept breaking because the Council used cheap parts and overworked the machines. But humans who talked back to their alien bosses often disappeared. She just nodded and left with Marcus. Their ship, the Defiant Hope, was docked in the station's cargo bay. It was an old human freighter that Sarah's crew used for salvage work. The ship looked rough on the outside, but Marcus had made sure the engines ran perfectly. Sarah's crew was waiting in the ship's common room. There was Zara Kim, a young woman who could hack any computer system. She had grown up on the moon colonies and had never seen Earth. There was also old Pete, who had been a ship captain before the aliens came. Now he was just another human worker. "Got another job," Sarah announced. "Council wants us to salvage a derelict ship in the outer belt. Standard payment." "Standard payment means almost nothing," Pete grumbled. "Barely enough to buy food and fuel." Zara looked up from her computer screen. "I've been tracking the money flows. The Council takes 90% of what we earn. They say it's for administrative costs and species development fees." Sarah felt the familiar anger building in her chest. 50 years of this treatment and nothing ever changed. If anything, things were getting worse. More restrictions, more rules, more ways to keep humans down. The Defiant Hope left the station and headed toward the asteroid belt. The journey would take 3 days. Sarah spent the time thinking about her life and wondering if things would ever get better. The derelict ship was floating in the dark space between asteroids. It was huge, bigger than any ship Sarah had ever seen. The design was strange, too. It didn't look like any Council ship she knew. "Marcus, take us in close," Sarah ordered. "Zara, scan for any active systems." "It's completely dead," Zara reported. "No power, no life support. But the hull is intact." They docked with the alien ship and put on their spacesuits. The airlock opened with a loud hiss and they floated into the ship's dark corridors. Old Pete whistled softly. "This ship is ancient. Look at these walls. I've never seen metal like this." Sarah ran her gloved hand along the wall. It felt warm even through her suit. Strange symbols were carved into the metal, symbols that seemed familiar somehow. They moved deeper into the ship. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, showing rooms filled with strange equipment. Everything was covered in dust, but it all looked remarkably well preserved. "Captain, you need to see this," Zara called from ahead. Sarah followed Zara's voice to what looked like the ship's bridge. Banks of dead computer screens surrounded a central command chair. But what caught Sarah's attention were the star charts on the walls. "These show our galaxy," Sarah said, studying the maps. "But look at these markers." The chart showed hundreds of points marked with symbols. Sarah recognized some of the locations. They were places where humans lived now, or where they had found ancient ruins. "Zara, can you get any power to these computers?" The young hacker worked for an hour before getting some systems online. The screens flickered to life, showing text in an unknown language. But as they watched, the text began to change, becoming readable. "It's adapting to us," Zara whispered. "The computer is learning our language." The translated text made Sarah's blood run cold. It was a ship's log, written by someone called Commander Chen Xiaoming. The dates were thousands of years old, but the name, Chen, Marcus said quietly. "That's your family name." Sarah stared at the screen. According to the log, Commander Chen had been exploring this part of the galaxy when his ship was damaged in a battle. The enemy was described as the Council fleet and alien invaders. More entries told a horrible story. The Council had attacked human colonies across the galaxy. They had destroyed cities and enslaved millions. The few survivors had been scattered to primitive worlds like Earth. "This can't be right," Old Pete said. "Humans come from Earth, we evolved there." But Zara was already pulling up more files. Star charts showing human colonies that existed before the Council. Technology records that describe ships and weapons more advanced than anything the Council had now. Pictures of humans who looked exactly like modern humans, but wearing strange uniforms and carrying energy weapons. "They lied to us," Sarah said, her voice shaking with anger. "We're not primitives. We're survivors." The computer chimed and another file opened. It showed a video message from Commander Chen. The man on the screen looked tired and desperate. Behind him, Sarah could see other humans working frantically. "If anyone finds this ship," the commander said, "know that humanity did not start on Earth. We are the builders of the old star roads. We taught the younger races to travel between worlds. But they turned on us when they grew strong enough. They fear what we can become." The message ended, but Sarah's mind was racing. Everything made sense now. The way humans could fix alien technology better than the aliens themselves. The way human workers always found better ways to do things. The way the Council was so afraid of giving humans any real responsibility. "We have to tell people," Sarah said. "Humanity has to know the truth." Marcus nodded grimly. "But who's going to believe us? And what happens when the Council finds out what we discovered?" Sarah looked around at her crew. These people had become her family over the years. They had suffered together under alien rule. Now they had a chance to change everything. "We copy everything," she decided. "Every file, every record. Then we find a way to spread the truth. Humanity deserves to know who we really are." As they worked to download the ancient files, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The Council had taken everything from humanity, their history, their pride, their future, but they had made one mistake. They had let the humans live, and now humanity was going to remember. The ancient files from the derelict ship spread through humanity's hidden networks like fire through dry grass. Sarah had been careful to encrypt everything before sending it out, but she knew the Council would eventually notice the increased chatter on human communication channels. 3 weeks after their discovery, Sarah met with David Park in a maintenance tunnel deep inside Titan Station. David ran a group of human engineers who worked on the Council's mining operations. His face was grim when he showed Sarah a datapad. "It's not just your ship," David said quietly. "We've been finding things too. Old ruins on the mining asteroids, metal that doesn't match any known alloy, tools buried under rock that's supposed to be millions of years old." Sarah studied the pictures on the datapad, strange devices that looked almost familiar, weapon designs that reminded her of modern energy rifles but more elegant and powerful. "How many people know?" Sarah asked. "Too many," David replied. "Word is spreading. People are asking questions. The Council's overseers are getting nervous." That nervousness became clear the next day. Sarah watched from her ship as Council security forces surrounded the human quarters on Station 7. The snake-like hegemony guards moved through the corridors with energy weapons ready. They arrested anyone found with illegal materials or seditious information. Among the arrested was Elena Vasquez, a teacher who had been sharing the ancient human history with her students. Sarah knew Elena personally. The woman had 3 children and had never caused trouble in her life. "This is just the beginning," Old Pete said as they watched the arrests through the ship's cameras. "They're scared of what we found." Zara was working frantically at her computer station. "I'm picking up Council communications," she reported. "They're calling it Human Information Crisis Management. They've ordered increased surveillance on all human settlements." The crackdown intensified over the following weeks. Council forces raided human homes looking for copies of the ancient files. They shut down several asteroid mining operations and relocated entire human communities. Families were separated and sent to different stations, supposedly for administrative efficiency. But the harder the council pushed, the more humans pushed back. Underground networks that had existed for decades began working together. Miners shared information with station workers. Ship crews carried messages between distant colonies. Even humans who had never questioned council authority began to ask why their children were being taken away to education centers. Sarah's crew became unofficial messengers for the growing resistance. They used their salvage operations as cover to visit different stations and planets. Each stop brought new information and new allies. On Europa Station, they met Dr. James Wright, a human scientist who had been studying alien technology for 20 years. His laboratory was hidden in the moon's ice caves, far from council surveillance. "I've been comparing the files you found with current council technology," Dr. Wright explained. "The patterns are undeniable. Almost every major innovation the council uses was originally human." He showed them holographic displays of council starships. "Look at the engine designs, the navigation systems, even their communication networks. They're all based on human technology from thousands of years ago, but they've made everything more complicated and less efficient." Marcus leaned forward to study the displays. "You mean they stole our technology?" "Worse than that," Dr. Wright said. "They took our innovations and made them primitive. It's like someone took a sports car and turned it into a horse-drawn cart." The doctor pulled up another display showing weapon designs. "This is really disturbing. According to your files, humans developed these energy weapons for construction and mining. The council modified them to be less precise but more destructive. They turned tools into weapons of war." Sarah felt sick as she understood the implications. "They didn't just defeat us. They corrupted everything we created." "But here's the interesting part," Dr. Wright continued. "The technology responds to humans differently than to aliens. When humans work on council systems, the machines seem to remember. They become more efficient, more responsive." Zara's eyes lit up with understanding. "That's why they need us for maintenance work. They can't make their own stolen technology work properly without human hands." The revelation was staggering. The council didn't just oppress humans out of prejudice. They needed human workers to maintain their entire civilization, but they were terrified of what would happen if humans realized their true capabilities. The resistance began to test this theory. Human engineers started making small modifications to council systems. They told their alien supervisors that the changes were necessary repairs, but in reality, they were unlocking the technology's original potential. Mining equipment became twice as efficient. Communication systems gained new capabilities. Even simple maintenance robots began performing tasks they were never designed for. The council's response was swift and brutal. Overseer Vexthak issued new regulations restricting human access to any technology above basic maintenance level. Humans caught making unauthorized modifications faced immediate deportation to prison colonies. The breaking point came at New Geneva Station, one of the largest human settlements in the galaxy. The station housed nearly 1 million humans who worked in the surrounding asteroid mines and manufacturing facilities. Sarah's ship was docked at New Geneva when the council announced operational reorganization. The entire station was to be evacuated, and its human population redistributed to smaller, more manageable facilities. "They're breaking us up," Sarah realized as she read the evacuation orders. "Keeping humans in small groups so we can't organize." But the humans of New Geneva had other plans. 60 years of oppression had created a population that knew how to work together and how to survive. When council forces arrived to begin the evacuation, they found the station's docking bays sealed and its defense systems active. "This is Overseer Vexthak," the alien's voice echoed through the station's speakers. "Humans will comply with evacuation orders or face military action." The response came from station manager Robert Kane, a human who had run New Geneva's operations for 15 years. "This is our home," Kane's voice replied calmly. "We're not leaving." What followed was a 3-day siege that changed everything. Council warships surrounded the station while human defenders used their intimate knowledge of the systems to keep the aliens out. Every time the council tried to override the station's controls, Human technicians found new ways to block them. Sarah and her crew were trapped inside during the siege, but they used the time to help coordinate resistance efforts. Zara hacked into Council communications, giving the defenders advance warning of every attack. The siege ended when Vexthak lost patience and ordered a direct assault. Council Marines breached the outer hull and fought their way through the station's corridors. The human defenders fought back with improvised weapons and superior knowledge of the terrain. Sarah watched from a hidden observation post as the final battle raged in the station's central plaza. Humans armed with mining tools and modified equipment faced off against alien soldiers with energy weapons and armor. The humans fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, the defenders fell. Robert Kane made a final stand at the station's command center, broadcasting a message to the entire galaxy as Council forces closed in around him. "We are not your slaves," Kane's voice carried across space to every human settlement. "We are not your servants. We are the builders of the star roads, and we remember who we are." The transmission cut off as plasma fire destroyed the command center. New Geneva Station went dark, its population dead or scattered to prison colonies. But Kane's message had been heard. Across the galaxy, humans began to realize that their oppression wasn't random or natural. It was deliberate, calculated, and based on fear. The Council had made a critical mistake. They had shown their true face, and now humanity saw them clearly for the first time in 50 years. In hidden bases and secret meetings, humans began to plan. The age of passive resistance was over. The time for revolution had begun. 6 months after the massacre at New Geneva Station, Sarah found herself in a place she never expected to be, sitting around a table with the leaders of humanity's underground resistance. The meeting was taking place in an abandoned mining facility, deep in the asteroid belt, far from any Council surveillance. The resistance had grown beyond anything Sarah could have imagined. What started as scattered groups of angry workers had become an organized network, spanning dozens of star systems. They called themselves the Free Terra Coalition, honoring both humanity's adopted home and their true origins among the stars. "We have cells operating on every major station and colony," reported Maria Santos, who coordinated communications between resistance groups. Over 2 million humans are now actively involved, with many more providing support. David Park had survived the crackdown after New Geneva, and now led the Coalition's technical division. "Our people have been reverse engineering the ancient technology from the files. We're not just fixing Council systems anymore. We're building our own." He activated a holographic display showing weapon designs and ship modifications. These are based on the original human blueprints, but improved with modern materials and techniques. The weapons are 3 times more powerful than Council equivalents, and the ship upgrades increase speed and efficiency by 40%. Sarah studied the designs with Marcus and Zara. The technology was impressive, but she knew the Coalition faced a much bigger challenge than just building better weapons. "Numbers don't matter if we can't coordinate our actions," Sarah pointed out. "The Council can crush individual uprisings one at a time. We need to hit them everywhere at once." Dr. Wright, who had become the Coalition's chief scientist, nodded in agreement. "But there's something else we need to consider. We're not the only species the Council oppresses." He brought up a galactic map showing the territories controlled by different alien races. "The Council's hierarchy puts humans at the bottom, but there are other species only slightly above us. The Zalani were advanced traders before the Council conquered them. The Thurok had a military confederation that rivaled the Council's power. Even some of the mid-level species are growing tired of Council control." "You're suggesting we find allies," Maria said. "I'm suggesting we remember that humans were never the only victims," Dr. Wright replied. "According to the ancient files, humanity fought alongside other species against the Council's expansion. We weren't trying to conquer the galaxy, we were trying to protect it." This revelation led to careful outreach efforts. Sarah's crew began making contact with non-human resistance groups, using their salvage operations as cover. What they found surprised them. On Kepler Station, they met with Thys, a Zalani trader who had been secretly moving supplies to human resistance cells. The fox-like alien's large ears twitched nervously as she spoke. "My people remember the old stories," Thys explained in broken human language. "Before Council came, humans and Zalani traded as equals. Humans taught us new technologies. We taught humans about galactic trade routes. Was peaceful time. The Thurok were more direct in their approach. General Krax, a bear-like alien with scarred hide, met with Sarah in a military surplus depot. "The Council took our warrior culture and turned it into their security force," Krax growled. "My soldiers fight for aliens who despise us. But if humans rise against Council, Thurok will remember old alliances." These meetings gave Sarah hope, but also made her realize how carefully the Coalition would need to move. The Council had spent centuries dividing the galaxy species against each other. Building trust would take time they might not have. That urgency became clear when Zara intercepted a classified Council transmission. She called an emergency meeting to share what she had discovered. "They're calling it Operation Clean Slate," Zara announced to the assembled resistance leaders. "The Council plans to relocate all humans to a single world called Kepler 442b. They'll close down every human settlement and force our entire species to live under direct military control." The room erupted in angry voices. David Park slammed his fist on the table. "They want to turn us into a zoo exhibit. Keep all the humans in one place where they can watch us." "It's worse than that," Sarah said, studying the intercepted files. "Look at the population projections. They're planning to reduce human numbers to what they call sustainable levels. They're talking about limiting reproduction and controlling our genetic diversity." Dr. Wright's face went pale as he understood the implications. "They're planning genocide. Slow, controlled genocide that will eliminate humanity as a species over the next few centuries." The revelation changed everything. The Coalition could no longer afford to build slowly and carefully. They had to act before Operation Clean Slate began in 18 months. "We accelerate everything," Sarah declared. "Every operation, every plan, every alliance. We're going to war." The next year was a blur of preparation and risk-taking. Coalition cells began stockpiling weapons and supplies. Human technicians secretly modified Council systems, installing backdoors and hidden functions that could be activated when the rebellion began. Alliance networks expanded to include more alien species who had grown tired of Council oppression. The Coalition's biggest breakthrough came when Dr. Wright's team successfully reverse-engineered an ancient human starship design. The ship they built was small, only holding a crew of 20, but it was faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Council fleet. "We've named her the New Geneva," Dr. Wright announced at the ship's secret launch. "She's proof that humanity can build something better than our oppressors ever imagined." Sarah felt a mixture of pride and sadness as she watched the sleek ship's maiden flight. The technology was beautiful, but it had been bought with the blood of those who died at New Geneva Station. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. Zara had been monitoring Council communications for months, learning their codes and protocols. She discovered that the Council's central command system had a critical weakness. "They're using our own technology against us," Zara explained to Sarah and Marcus. "But they don't understand how it really works. The system has automatic update protocols that respond to human genetic markers. If I can get close enough to their main server, I can upload a virus that will give us access to their entire network." "That's impossible," Marcus protested. "The Council's command center is on their capital world. It's the most heavily defended location in the galaxy." "Not impossible," Sarah said slowly. "Just incredibly dangerous." The plan that emerged was audacious beyond anything the Coalition had attempted. While resistance cells across the galaxy prepared for simultaneous uprisings, a small team would infiltrate the Council's capital and take control of their command systems. Sarah would lead the mission personally, along with her original crew and a handful of specialists from other resistance cells. They would use the New Geneva to reach the capital world, then rely on speed and surprise to reach their target. "If we succeed, every human in the galaxy will be free," Sarah told the assembled mission team. "If we fail, the resistance dies with us." As the New Geneva prepared for its most dangerous mission, Sarah looked out at the stars and thought about her grandfather's dreams of exploration and discovery. The Council had tried to turn humanity into servants and slaves, but they had made a critical error. They had underestimated the human capacity for hope, courage, and the refusal to accept injustice. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided they had been pushed too far. The revolution was about to begin. The New Geneva dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Council capital system, her hull shimmering with the energy of the ancient human cloaking technology that Dr. Wright's team had rebuilt from the archaeological files. Sarah watched the massive Council fleet formations through the ship's sensors, her heart racing as she counted hundreds of warships protecting the galaxy's seat of power. Phase 1 is go, she announced over the secure communication channel that connected her ship to resistance cells across the galaxy. All units, you are cleared for operation. The response was immediate. On mining stations throughout the Outer Rim, human workers suddenly turned their industrial equipment against their alien overseers. Asteroid processing plants became weapons factories. Transport ships carried resistance fighters instead of cargo. After 60 years of oppression, humanity was finally fighting back. Marcus monitored the tactical displays as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Titan Station is ours, he announced. Human security forces have joined the uprising. They've captured the command center and locked down the docking bays. Proxima Colony is reporting success, Zara added, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards as she coordinated communications. The Thurok garrison has switched sides. General Crack says his warriors are tired of serving the Council. Similar reports came from dozens of systems. The careful preparation of the past year was paying off as human resistance cells and their alien allies struck simultaneously. But Sarah knew the real battle was just beginning. The Council capital world of Nexus Prime loomed ahead, a massive planet covered in gleaming cities and orbital defense platforms. The planet was protected by energy shields that could stop any conventional attack. But the New Geneva wasn't planning a conventional attack. Take us into the shipping lanes, Sarah ordered. Emergency transponder code Gamma 7. The small ship's identity changed as Zara activated their cover story. To Council sensors, they now appeared to be a damaged freight hauler requesting emergency docking clearance. It was a risky deception, but the chaos of the galaxy-wide uprising was working in their favor. Council Fleet Command to damaged freighter, came the response from traffic control. You are cleared for emergency docking at Platform 7. Security teams will board for inspection. Acknowledged, Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice calm. We have critical engine damage and need immediate assistance. As the New Geneva approached the docking platform, Sarah studied the massive space station that served as the gateway to the Council capital. Thousands of ships moved through its docking bays every day, carrying supplies and personnel to the government centers below. The security inspection went exactly as planned. The Council guards who boarded their ship found exactly what they expected: a small crew of human traders with a damaged cargo hauler. They never suspected that the damaged sections of the ship contained advanced weapons and infiltration equipment. Dr. Wright's modifications are working perfectly, Marcus whispered as the guards completed their inspection. They can't detect any of the hidden compartments. Once the guards left, Sarah's team moved quickly. They changed into Council maintenance uniforms and made their way through the station's service corridors. Zara had spent months studying the station's layout, and she guided them through the maze of passages with confidence. Their target was the Central Command Complex, a heavily fortified facility that controlled communications and fleet movements for the entire Council. If they could reach the main computer core, Zara could upload her virus and give the Resistance access to the Council's entire military network. The complex was guarded by elite hegemony troops, but the uprising had created confusion throughout the Council hierarchy. Guards were being reassigned to deal with the spreading rebellions, and security protocols were changing hourly. Sarah's team reached the outer perimeter of the command complex, just as news of the uprisings began reaching the capital. Through the facility's windows, they could see Council officials running between buildings and emergency vehicles racing through the streets. Reports are coming in from across the galaxy, announced Overseer Vexthak's voice over the facility's speakers. Human terrorists have launched coordinated attacks on multiple installations. All security forces are to implement Protocol 7 immediately. Sarah smiled grimly. Protocol 7 was the Council's emergency response plan, which meant pulling guards from internal security to defend against external threats. The chaos was working exactly as the Resistance had hoped. The team made their way deeper into the complex using maintenance tunnels and service elevators. Marcus disabled security sensors while Zara hacked into the facility's internal communication system. Old Pete, despite his age, proved surprisingly agile at bypassing electronic locks. They finally reached the main computer core, a massive chamber filled with glowing data storage units and processing equipment. The technology was impressive, but Sarah could see the inefficient design that Dr. Wright had described. The Council had taken human innovations and made them unnecessarily complex. There, Zara pointed to a central console surrounded by security barriers. That's the main interface. Give me 10 minutes and I can upload the virus to their entire network. But as they approached the console, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed and blast doors started sealing the corridors. "Intruders detected in Sector 7, announced an automated voice. "Security teams respond immediately." "They've found us," Marcus said, checking his weapon. "How much time do you need?" Zara was already working at the console, her hands moving rapidly across the alien interface. 5 minutes if everything goes perfectly. 15 if there are complications. "Hold the door," Sarah ordered, taking position at the chamber's entrance. "Whatever happens, Zara gets her time." The first security team arrived within minutes. Council guards in full combat armor poured into the corridor outside the computer core, their energy weapons lighting up the darkness. Sarah and Marcus returned fire from behind improvised cover, their human-designed weapons proving superior to the aliens' equipment. "These weapons are incredible," Marcus shouted over the gunfire. 3 shots and their armor is worthless. But more guards kept coming. Sarah realized they were facing the entire facility's security force, and her small team couldn't hold them off indefinitely. "Zara, how much longer?" "I'm in their system, but there's more security than I expected." 7 more minutes. That's when old Pete proved why he had been a ship captain before the Council took over. The elderly man had been quietly studying the chamber's technical specifications, and he suddenly stood up with a determined expression. "Captain, that power coupling controls the entire facility's energy grid. If I overload it, we'll have about 30 seconds before the backup systems activate." Sarah understood immediately. "Do it." Pete worked quickly at the power coupling while Sarah and Marcus continued firing at the approaching guards. The old engineer had steady hands despite the chaos around him, and he managed to trigger a cascade failure in the facility's power systems. The lights went out and the security barriers around the main console deactivated, but the darkness also meant the guards could advance without being seen. "I can't see what I'm doing," Zara called out desperately. That's when Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She activated the emergency lighting on her suit and stood up in full view of the council guards, drawing their fire away from Zara. Energy bolts flew around her as she provided covering fire for her team. One blast caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around and sending her crashing into a bank of computers. But she kept firing, determined to give Zara the time she needed. "Got it," Zara suddenly shouted. "The virus is uploaded, full access to their entire network." The effect was immediate. Throughout the galaxy, Council communications networks began accepting orders from human resistance fighters. Fleet coordination broke down as ships received conflicting commands. Defense systems turned against their operators. But the most dramatic change happened on Nexus Prime itself. Zara's virus didn't just give the resistance access to Council networks. It activated dormant systems that had been built into the technology thousands of years ago by the original human engineers. The Council's own defense platforms turned their weapons on government buildings. Automated systems began broadcasting the truth about human history to every world in the galaxy. The carefully constructed lies that had justified 60 years of oppression crumbled in minutes. As Sarah watched the chaos spreading through the facility's windows, she saw something that made her heart race with hope. Human transport ships were landing in the capital city's main plaza, and human fighters were pouring out to join their alien allies in street-by-street combat. The revolution had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. But Sarah knew the hardest part was still ahead. The Council would not give up power without a final, desperate fight. 3 weeks after the virus upload, Sarah stood on the bridge of the New Geneva as it led a fleet of human and allied ships toward the final battle of the revolution. The Council had retreated to their stronghold in the Galactic Core, a fortress system protected by massive defense stations and the last of their loyal fleets. The galaxy had changed dramatically since the uprising began. Dozens of species had joined the rebellion once they learned the truth about the Council's lies and oppression. The Zalani trade networks had become supply lines for the resistance. Thurok warriors fought alongside human marines on 100 different worlds. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Santos," Zara announced from her station. Maria Santos had been promoted to lead the Resistance Navy after proving her strategic skills in the early battles. "Sarah, we're getting reports that the Council is preparing something desperate. Maria's voice crackled over the communication system. Our allies in the core system say they're moving all their remaining forces to defend the Nexus system. Sarah studied the tactical display showing the approaching battle zone. The Nexus system contained the Council's original homeworld and their most advanced military installations. If the Resistance could capture it, the war would be over. What about civilian casualties? Sarah asked. There are millions of non-combatants in that system. That's what worries me, Maria replied. Intelligence suggests the Council is willing to destroy their own worlds rather than surrender. They're talking about something called Final Protocol. Dr. Wright's voice came over the channel from his position aboard the Resistance flagship. I've been analyzing captured Council databases. Final Protocol appears to be a weapon system designed to cause stellar collapse. They're planning to turn the Nexus star into a supernova. The implications were staggering. A supernova would destroy every planet in the system and kill billions of beings. It would also send shockwaves through nearby star systems, potentially damaging dozens of other worlds. They'd rather destroy the galaxy than lose control of it, Marcus said grimly from his position at the weapons console. Then we stop them, Sarah declared. All ships maximum speed to the Nexus system. We end this now. The Resistance fleet that jumped into hyperspace was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside Zilani traders converted into warships. Thurok battlecruisers escorted transport vessels carrying refugees from the core worlds. Even some species that had been loyal to the Council had switched sides when they learned about Final Protocol. The journey to the Nexus system took 18 hours, and Sarah spent the time reviewing intelligence reports and coordinating with Resistance leaders across the fleet. The plan was simple in concept, but challenging in execution. Punch through the Council's defenses fast enough to prevent them from activating their doomsday weapon. When the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system, they found themselves facing the largest space battle in galactic history. The Council had assembled every remaining loyal ship into a defensive formation around their core worlds. Massive defense stations bristled with weapons and energy shields protected the most critical installations. But the Resistance fleet had advantages the Council couldn't match. Human engineering had improved their ship's performance far beyond original specifications. Alien allies brought tactical knowledge and specialized weapons. Most importantly, they were fighting for freedom rather than the preservation of a corrupt system. All units commence attack, Admiral Santos ordered. Remember, our priority is reaching the stellar control station. Everything else is secondary. The battle began with a massive exchange of energy fire as the two fleets clashed in the space between worlds. Sarah watched through the New Geneva's sensors as ships on both sides erupted in flames and debris filled the vacuum of space. The human ships proved their superiority quickly. Their improved weapons cut through Council defenses while their enhanced engines allowed them to outmaneuver enemy fire. But the Council had numbers on their side, and their defense stations provided heavy fire support. Sarah, we're receiving a transmission from the Council command ship, Zara reported. It's Overseer Vexthak. The snake-like alien's image appeared on the main screen, his yellow eyes filled with hatred and desperation. Behind him, Sarah could see Council officials working frantically at control stations. Human terrorists, Vexthak hissed. You think you have won, but you understand nothing. The Council has maintained order in this galaxy for 1,000 years. Without us, chaos will consume everything. The only chaos here is what you created, Sarah replied firmly. You built your order on lies and oppression. It's time for something better. Vexthak's expression became even more venomous. Better? You primitive creatures know nothing of governing a galaxy. You will destroy yourselves within a generation and take the rest of the galaxy with you. Maybe we will, Sarah admitted, but that's our choice to make, not yours. The alien overseer studied her for a long moment, then his mouth curled in what might have been a smile. Choice. You speak of choice while your fleet burns around you. Very well, human. Let me show you the ultimate choice. The transmission cut off, and alarms began sounding throughout the Resistance fleet. Dr. Wright's voice came over the emergency channel, filled with urgency. They're activating the stellar collapse weapon. We have less than 30 minutes before the star begins to destabilize. Sarah felt ice in her veins as she understood what was happening. The Council was willing to commit galactic genocide rather than accept defeat. In 30 minutes, the Nexus star would begin collapsing into a supernova that would destroy everything for light years in every direction. All ships, new priority target. Admiral Santos commanded. Ignore the defense stations. We need to reach that stellar control facility now. The Resistance fleet abandoned its careful attack formation and drove straight toward the heart of the Council's defenses. Ships that had been fighting defensive battles suddenly accelerated to ramming speed, their crews determined to break through at any cost. The New Geneva led the charge, her improved engines pushing her far ahead of the larger ships. Sarah watched the tactical display as Council forces concentrated their fire on the breakthrough attempt. But human determination and superior technology began to tell. Zolani's ship Red Trader is down, Marcus reported. Thurok cruiser Iron Fist has lost main engines. But we're getting through. The stellar control station was a massive platform orbiting close to the Nexus star, protected by the most advanced shields the Council possessed. As the New Geneva approached, Sarah could see the platform's massive arrays beginning to focus energy beams toward the star's surface. Zara, can you hack their systems from here? Not from this distance. I need to get inside their network physically. Sarah made a decision that terrified and exhilarated her at the same time. Marcus, prepare for ramming speed. We're going through their shields. Captain, the ship won't survive impact at this velocity. The ship doesn't need to survive. We just need to get Zara inside. The New Geneva's engines screamed as they pushed past their design limits. The small ship accelerated toward the control station like a missile, her hull beginning to glow from the stress. Council weapons fired desperately at the approaching vessel, but her speed made her nearly impossible to target accurately. The impact was tremendous. The New Geneva's reinforced nose pierced the station's shields and hull, driving deep into the facility's core before the ship's structure finally gave way. But the sacrifice had worked. The ship's crew compartment, protected by emergency shields, survived the crash and came to rest inside the station's main computer center. Sarah pulled herself from the wreckage as alarms blared throughout the facility. Her shoulder was dislocated and her head was bleeding, but she was alive. Around her, Marcus and Zara were extracting themselves from their own debris. The stellar weapon? Sarah asked urgently. Zara was already moving toward the control systems, her hands flying over alien interfaces. Still charging, but I can access it from here. Give me 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes felt like hours as Sarah and Marcus held off Council security forces with the last of their ammunition. The facility's guards kept coming, desperate to protect their doomsday weapon. But human weapons and determination proved superior once again. Got it! Zara shouted. The weapon is shut down and locked out. The star is stable. But even as the immediate crisis ended, Sarah knew the war wasn't over. Through the facility's windows, she could see the space battle still raging, as Council forces made their last stand. Then something unexpected happened. The Council's own communication system, still partially under Resistance control, began broadcasting a message to all ships in the system. It was Admiral Santos, speaking from the bridge of her flagship. This is Admiral Santos of the Free Terra Coalition. The Council's doomsday weapon has been disabled. To all Council forces, your leaders were willing to destroy billions of innocent lives rather than accept defeat. Is this the cause you want to die for? The effect was immediate. Across the battlefield, Council ships began standing down. Some switched sides entirely, their crews finally understanding the true nature of their government.